Wright Thompson, ESPN.com, ESPN the magazine, senior writer. He's got a new book, The Cost of These Dreams, Sports Stories and Other Serious Business, online and wherever books are sold. If you were going to give a synopsis of this book, what would it be? How would you describe?
I would say The Cost of These Dreams is about the greatest athletes in the world and completely unknown people all struggling with the same issues about why do we do the things we do, what pushes us to try to be great, and when it's over, what have we turned ourselves into in exchange for it? And I mean, I think like when you read them together, I had to do the book on tape, and oh boy, there's nothing, you talk about confronting 4 days in a booth hearing your own voice.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me how they fit together as a book, and they speak to each other in a way that, I mean, I'm not nearly smart enough to have done that on purpose. It just sort of happened when you read them together.
But you have Urban Meyer, you have Pat Riley, you have Tiger Woods, you have Michael Jordan. Just, that's where you start here. And as McLovin said, the common denominator is obviously successful, but miserable.
It's
or trapped.
I mean, very much trapped by the forces. The careers are almost, in some cases, accidental byproducts of them trying to manage demons and forces, especially Tiger and Pat Riley and Urban Meyer. And it's so fascinating to me. For a story last year, I spent a couple of days with Dale Murphy, the former baseball player. And I just had this moment. I realized he is the first 60-something athlete I have ever met who's happy.
He's in a great mood.
And he's happy. And he's content with his choices.
He's the anomaly, though, right?
He absolutely is. Ain't none of these guys happy. And that is always fascinating to me about, you see these guys, when it's all over, they have, Michael Jordan is very well aware of the fact that Mike Jordan from Wilmington, North Carolina is dead and that Michael Jordan killed him.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're very aware of what they've lost along the way.
Okay, how do you get approval to go visit and be a fly on the wall with Michael Jordan watching basketball?
It's unbelievable. I asked and asked and asked, and it was very clear. I read this New Yorker story about Paul McCartney. It said, when I'm 64, and it was about Paul McCartney turning 64. And I just was fascinated by the idea that Michael Jordan was turning 50, which, my God, what does that make me? And so I wanted to write a story about him and aging, and I sent the request in and was basically like, I'm doing this with or without him. I mean,
Okay.
if I have to call every human being he's ever met, we'll do that, which is what the Tiger story ended up being.
Yeah.
But
because Tiger did
not talk, and I called every human being he'd ever met.
Do you think he wishes that he talked to soften that a little bit?
I mean, yes. I mean, just if nothing else, to suck up real estate.
Well, they're all, control freaks. But, so Jordan allows you to listen.
And we hung out and watched basketball. And watching basketball with Michael Jordan is unbelievably intense because you realize he knows enough about the game, and you realize that he's scouting for games he's never going to play in. Like, it's so interesting to me. He is so self-aware that he constructed himself into someone who was perfect at his job. And the problem is, like, all of those carefully sharpened traits not only are useless in his new life, they're like worse than useless because they're like the things that are actively conspiring to keeping him from being able to enjoy having been Michael Jordan. And so, like, he knows it, that if he could put all of these, he sits there and plays that iPad game Bejeweled and is like one of the best people in the world at it. And like Michael Jordan, I mean, it's like some great chef cooking in a Waffle House. It's just, you know what I mean? It's like, this is what it's come to. I mean, he's playing Sudoku and he's like, I beat you, like, it's crazy.
But he's also watching LeBron James.
Yes.
And the competitor in him says, I'd force him left. I'd make him shoot that jumper. If he goes right, I can't stop him. So you can't turn that off.
No, and it's interesting. His playing weight was 218. And so he when I saw him, he'd just gotten back from a vacation, eating and drinking, and he'd gotten up to like 250 something. And so he came back like all of us and hit the gym. And he said that when the pounds start coming off and he gets to 240 and 235 and 232 and 229, he's like, I start thinking about, can I get to 218? because in Jordan world, 218 is the magic number. Like if I can get to 218, maybe I could play.
Did he talk about the triangle offense?
It was unbelievable. Like I have this framed on the wall of my office. Like we're sitting there, and I had a notebook, and we've been watching basketball for hours, and I'm like, I should have put that in the cost of these dreams. I should have just been the cover. Because what I did is, I'm like, can you explain the triangle to me? And he was just like, give me that notebook. And he drew it. And I'm sitting there, and he draws the basketball court and a little X. He's like, this is me. And then another X, this is Scotty. And he's drawing lines. And I'm just like, this is Michael Jordan is explaining the triangle offense to me. And, my face is melting off. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like this. Like there were a few moments where I'm just like, this is bananas. Like,
and Jordan let you take the paper out.
Oh, I don't even think he realized that he'd done it. Like he just, you know what I mean? Like he just drew it, and it was in my notebook. And when I started going through the notebook later, I was like, oh my God. But like, it was really interesting. I mean, I spent a lot of time around Jordan, and this sounds crazy, but like you would like him. Like he can give it and take it.
Yeah.
And you would like the guy.
But it took him a while to become this.
Well, it absolutely.
Because Tiger can't find that. Well, the older Tiger.
What's really interesting to me is that in some ways, Tiger was really let down by the people around him who were packaging and selling him. And you understand why they did it. When he started, the best and the most successfully marketed athlete in the world was Michael Jordan. And so Tiger's people, following best practices, sold Tiger exactly like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But the real problem is that Michael is naturally an extreme extrovert, and Tiger is naturally an extreme introvert. And, again, it's that Updike thing. The mask eats the face. I mean, he in some ways, making him be someone in public that he was spectacularly unsuited to be was psychologically disastrous.
What if Tiger said, I'll give you two questions, right? You can ask whatever you want, and I'll answer honestly. What would be your two questions for Tiger?
Did you ever like golf? And
that's heavy.
And
do you think he likes golf?
No. I bet he likes golf now. I bet from 1997 to 2009 he did not like golf and wondered why he played. And
wait, but he was so successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think golf, he's actually a genius, I think, and he is a really incredible mind. And I think if his dad would have introduced him to gymnastics, or if his dad would have wanted him to be an opera singer, or if his dad would have wanted him to be the world's greatest classical guitar player, I think he would have been that. I think that the pursuit of greatness and of perfection was what he liked. I think now I wonder if he really likes golf. If it's this thing, I would ask him where he feels closest to his father now, would be my other question. Those would be my two questions.
Those are pretty.
But do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, can you imagine if you're an 11-year-old boy whose parents are getting divorced and are splitting up, and the happiest your family is when they're both watching you succeed at golf. And 12 to 18 goes really quickly. Now you're in college, you're the best player in the world. Now you're signing all of these deals. Now you've won the Masters. And you haven't really had time to decide whether you want your whole life to be shaped by the unintentional whims of a 12-year-old boy. Now imagine you're 30 and you have a wonderful life, but none of it is of your choosing.
But do you think he sabotaged his life, his career?
I don't know. I've thought about that. I've thought about that a lot. Subconsciously, possibly, I think that he certainly understood that there was a difference between Eldrick Tiger Woods and Tiger Woods, and that one was an avatar. I imagine, like lots of famous people, he came to hate the avatar and also sort of like it. It's like the Johnny Manziel thing. He wanted to be famous desperately, and then when he got it, all he wanted was to give it back. And you can't,
The book is The Cost of These Dreams, and I can't emphasize it enough, just because Wright's not one of the great sports writers. He's one of the great writers. And that's what hits you as soon as you start to read this. We're going down, we're going deep into the mine here. You know, I felt like a canary. I was going into the mine, and I was hoping I was going to stay alive, reading all of this. You know, it's like a country road. I don't know where it's going. You may not know where it's going, but you eventually get back home.
Well, I like not knowing. And I like not having an idea when I go in to meet any of these folks.
Yeah.
And,
Who did you feel sorry for that you actually had a chance to talk to? Or empathetic, maybe?
I felt it was interesting because I felt sorry for Michael Jordan. And then I talked to him several years later for that Tiger piece, and he seemed so much happier than even a couple of years before.
Getting married and having the baby.
And he just seemed really at ease. And I actually walked out of there and called one of my friends, and I was just like, man, I am so happy for Michael Jordan. Like, he's really happy.
Yeah.
And my God, he earned it.
What sounds strange, though, you'd think Mike's got everything, but you were there worried about him, and now, honey, I'm home. Michael Jordan is doing better.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's like I wouldn't want his fame. I would like his airplane. I need an airplane, but you
got to sell a lot of books.
do you know how many? Buy this book because Daddy needs a Gulfstream.
But Urban Meyer, I find him complicated. I don't know if he tries to be complicated. I don't know if he knows who he is.
That's a very interesting question. I think he's definitely complicated. I think one reason he's such a good coach is that it feels to me like he is on a lifelong journey to simplify because he's so complicated. So the reason he gets people to believe in things, the reason that he, as much as anyone I've ever met, wants to believe in something. He is a guy constantly searching around for a belief system that he can internalize and then pass on to a group of 18 to 21-year-old young men. I think that's why he's so good at it.
Does he believe what he's saying?
I think that in the moment he says it, he believes every word he's saying. I think that the reasons he started coaching were so personally important to him. And I imagine that you have to make so many little and big compromises along the way that he is still smart enough and self-aware enough. And it sounds weird, but at his core, a really ethical person. And I think that the combination of those things with all of those compromises probably makes him uncomfortable sometimes to look in the mirror. I mean, he didn't say that. That's me saying that. Yeah. But
what about Pat Riley?
I love Pat Riley. I mean, Pat Riley is probably, of all the people I've written about, he's the only one that I keep in touch with. I got an email from him this morning about the book. I mean, Pat is, when my wife and I were trying to have our daughter, who's 15 months old now, Pat was unbelievably, you'd be in a doctor's office and you look down and be an encouraging text from Pat Riley. And you understand, but you understand why he's so good at it. There's a story I love about, he was in the Bahamas and Michael Jordan was in Magic Johnson was in the Bahamas, and Riley didn't use a whistle. He can whistle really loud, I wish I could do that.
With his fingers.
Yeah, I can't do that, but really loud. And all of his players sort of get the heebie-jeebies when they hear it. And so Riley and his wife, Chris, are on a beach, and she looks down and she goes, "Is that Irvin?" And he's walking down the beach, and Riley's like, "Oh my God, it is." So he gets up and goes and hides behind a sand dune and then just goes and then lets it out and said that Magic was just like what? And then Riley stood up over the sand dune and waved. But
that's great.
He's an interesting guy who, his father was a failed professional athlete, and he, I don't think could ever really be happy for Pat's success. I mean, I don't think his dad saw him play a game in college or the NBA. And I think that, the night before that famous national championship game against Texas Western, Riley was so stressed out that his feet were breaking out in almost open sores. His parents weren't at that game. His high school coach was in his hotel room rubbing his feet so he could try to sleep. Riley's relationship with his high school coach is, the guy's name was Walt Prisbolo, and Riley loved him.
Yeah.
And in some ways, Riley's always trying to be for people what Walt was for him. I mean, it's interesting because, he adores his high school coach. You know that scene in Hoosiers where Dennis Hopper runs out drunk? That actually happened to Pat Riley in a high school basketball game. He's running back down the court to get back on defense and hears murmuring, and he turns around, and his father, who was underneath the bleachers watching, Riley didn't even know he was at the game, staggers out onto the court drunk. And they have to stop the game, and Riley's coach, all he can think about is just poor Pat. And so Riley goes and gets Pat's dad and gets him on the bench and sort of, and like Riley adored Walt Prisbolo and still does. I mean, I think one of Walt's sons was a scout for a long time for the Heat. I mean, Riley's one of those guys. When his college roommate at Kentucky died, the family walked into the church the morning of the funeral. I think it was probably during an NBA season, and the only two people in the church are the priest and Pat Riley, who's flown in, who's sitting in there waiting. And like he's one of those guys who shows up.
Do you think you're going to do one of these deep dives on LeBron?
Yes, I hope so.
But are you interested, or is there somebody else? If I said you can do one of your patented deep dives, you can pick anybody.
That's a really interesting question. I would really like to do, LeBron, I would really like to do, Christiano Ronaldo, I'm just completely fascinated by, because there seems like there's no there, which means there has to be like a really complicated there. I mean, no one is that vapid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that can't be it. Like, it can't just be like, oh no, he really is a moron. Like, it can't be like, sometimes I wonder, like, do you think he could say like 7 words? Like ball, steak, girl. Do you know what I mean? Like
pomade.
Yeah. So.
But you're more interested in Ronaldo than Messi.
I am more interested, and I've written about Messi, and I feel like Messi's another one of those people who the decisions he made as a 13-year-old boy, he now is.
Do you think he's trapped like Tiger?
I don't think he's as smart as Tiger, so I don't think he probably feels as trapped.
Okay.
I think Tiger's legitimately like off the charts brilliant. Like, in a way that say Jack Nicklaus isn't.
Okay.
Yeah. Tiger is a fascinating guy. I mean, I'd love to go back to Tiger.
Do you think he would let you back after what you wrote?
No. But it's interesting. I mean, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I have a couple of things going. I'm interested in Dabo Swinney.
Really? What about Saban?
I'm very interested in Saban because it seems to be such a lesson of if you just do little things over and over and over, it turns into a big thing.
But is that Belichickian?
I wonder about that. Like, I wonder if you could flip them. I wonder if there's something about Nick that allows him to do this with people of that age. And I wonder if Belichick has that and vice versa. Like, I wonder if they switched offices and everything else about those teams stayed the same, if either of them would succeed. Like, I don't know the answer to that.
So you think Nick is better at the 18 to 21-year-old, whereas Belichick needs you to be a little bit more mature than that?
I think there's a very interesting case to be made that that's true.
The book, as you can tell, the great stories there, and it's called The Cost of These Dreams, Sports Stories and Other Serious Business, online, wherever books are sold, and stamp of approval on my end. One of the great writers in America, Wright Thompson. Great to see you, bud.
Of course.
And congrats with the baby.
Thank you so much. She's really fun.
Yeah. And good luck on your Gulfstream.
I'm working on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to paint a picture of myself.
No, you're going to be working on the Gulfstream. You're not going to have one.
Got it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be walking around. Oh, Mr. Patrick, can I make you a martini? That's great.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.